Today we're going to talk about the travel-friendly, lightweight, affordable silicone mermaid tails from mermaidtraveltails.com. We're going to weigh the pros and the cons of those tails and hopefully help you determine whether or not a mermaid travel tail, silicone mermaid tail, is the right tail for you. So to start things off, I want to point out that these mermaid tails are something that I sell on my website. mermaidtraveltails.com is the website that I own and I manage, and I sell these mermaid tails, and I directly benefit from you buying one of these mermaid tails. That said, I am not going to lie to you about these tails, and that's the purpose of this video. I want to be as honest as possible. I'm a professional mermaid. I swim in lakes and rivers and streams and pond-like things, certain suspicious bodies of water, I don't really know what to call them, all over the place, especially in Michigan, and sometimes in pools too. And I want to make sure that the tails I am using for my events are realistic and believable. The tails that I'm swimming with in the water for videos look nice, and they're easy to swim with. They're not dangerous. They are durable, high quality, whatever. So I want to make sure that I can be transparent with you about this product so that you know that you are getting the best mermaid tail for you. So to begin, I want to talk about the cons of these mermaid tails, because no product is without fault, and if I was to say these are perfect, it would be a lie, and I'm not a liar. So we're going to talk about that first, and then, since I like to end things on a positive note so everybody feels nice and happy after watching my videos and nobody feels depressed or like gloomy or something, we're going to talk about the pros afterwards. So I have a long list, and I'm just going to kind of go through it. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But I am one person, so I can only answer so much. One of the things that most people are going to point out right away about these tails that will make them very skeptical about buying one is that these silicone mermaid tails, first of all, are made in a factory in China. They aren't handmade, so I know some people are skeptical about buying products that aren't made by hand when it comes to silicone mermaid tails. These are made in a factory. They are made in China. And I am in contact with the factory manager. The factory is called Braver. We talk frequently. Asked him so many questions, I feel so bad. But these tails are made of food-grade silicone, not dragon skin silicone. And the silicone that is used for these tails is the same silicone they would use for the nipples on baby bottles. So if you want to kind of get like a feel for the texture of them, you can go to the baby aisle. If your country makes the nipples of the same material, and you can kind of get a feel for what this will feel like. It's a little harder down here, a little softer up at the scales, but that's kind of like what it'll feel like. Some people don't like the idea of having a silicone mermaid tail that is made out of food-grade silicone. I think people are hesitant about getting a food-grade silicone tail for a few reasons. First of all, safety. Food-grade silicone is tested to be used in food preparing products and things that come in contact with food, like spatulas, baby bottle nipples, those little things you slide in the oven that are silicone. They aren't necessarily tested for safety on the skin. However, the company does go through like a bunch of tests where they tested for different toxic chemicals in the silicone, and the things that they tested for all came back negative. I'm not going to lie and say I understand all of that stuff, but I do trust the factory manager, and I think these are pretty safe. If you don't feel that these are safe and you don't want to have them on your skin, I wear tights under mine sometimes because Lake Michigan is cold, and I found out that I can wear tights underneath these if they're thin tights. So that way you can reduce the amount of skin contact you have with the food grade silicone if that's a concern of yours. And you can also keep yourself a little bit warmer because leggings or tights help insulate you. And I swim in Lake Michigan, and that's always welcomed. I cannot wear them under my other silicone tails because getting into them is a little bit different than it is getting into one of these. Video coming soon. So you can wear leggings under these, thin ones, if you are skeptical about the safety of the silicone. When it comes to kids touching the silicone and everything, if there are safety concerns about that, all I can really say is food grade silicone is something that they've most likely come into contact with for longer periods of time throughout their life. For example, if they use baby bottle nipples to feed. They had that in their mouth. They might have come into contact with silicone spatulas or utensils or bowls made out of silicone or cups that are made out of silicone or teething toys. So a momentary touch of the tail I don't think is going to cause any problems, but if that is a concern of yours, maybe these tails aren't the tails for you. Another concern I think that people have with food grade silicone is that it is not as durable as regular dragon skin silicone tails. I have dragon skin silicone tails, and I've had this tail for a couple of months now. It's gone through a lot. It's climbed on rocks. It's gone through everything my other tails have gone through. I will say that so far it's held up really well. That said, this company has not been around for many, many years. I believe it was 2002, no, 2001 I think it is. I'll put the exact date right here. When Braver was started. I asked the company manager, and he says that the tails are expected to last for life. I don't think that they would necessarily last for life depending on how much you use them. With how I use them, probably not. But I'm estimating these will last me at least like 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years. They're very durable in my experience from what I've seen so far. Obviously, there's not really the data to be able to tell you at this point how many years they will last. But from my experience, they're very durable. I have actively tried, and I feel really bad about saying this, but I've actively tried to damage these tails, and I've not been able to. And I swim in natural bodies of water with sharp zebra mussels, sharp rocks. This one's been on concrete for a couple of hours and on a fountain with an abrasive edge. I have not been able to damage the tails yet. They're pretty durable, and I think that you'll be okay. I can say that when it comes to being in the exact same environment and put in the exact same conditions, I'd almost say this is more durable than my dragon skin silicone tails, at least more durable than the paint on those tails, because like my rebellion tail, for example, I had to climb on rocks during a very wavy event, and it got a little scuffed up. This tail has been on those same rocks, same type of rocks, different location, but it came away just fine. Same with my sister's tail. I've worn that one too. I've worn them a lot. This one's actually been to the UP, and Lake Superior was not happy that day, and there were lots of rocks, and we came out perfectly fine. Don't recommend it. These things are durable, but again, there's not the data to back that they will last as long as dragon skin silicone tails. I've had my Sparta tail since 2016. It is currently 2003. I'm really bad at math, but here's how long that tail has lasted. Hopefully this thing can last long too. We'll find out. But these tails are made of food grade silicone. If that's something that's a concern of yours, maybe these tails aren't for you. Another thing that I would like to point out that I don't like so much about these mermaid tails is that while you don't have to get glitter in the tails, they do have glitter embedded in them, and it's really beautiful. Like it cannot be captured on camera. It is insane. I can't even describe it. Like they are like gems, sparkling gems in the water on a sunny day. It's amazing. But with that, the tails do shed a little bit of glitter here and there, mostly just at the very beginning when you first get the tails because they come fresh from the factory, and a factory that deals with glitter is going to have glitter hanging around in the factory. So there's some loose glitter that gets stuck on there, and you kind of have to wash it off really good before you go in on your first swim, unless of course you're swimming in a pool with a filter. But still, every once in a while I'll find a piece of glitter, like a single little thing of glitter, like laying on the carpet where I have it drying. So it does shed a little bit. Not enough to really be a concern, but it's still something that like I don't really like. I would definitely make sure that when you're wearing this tail the first couple of times, don't make the mistake I did and take it to a natural body of water, take it to a pool for the first couple of swims, or at least wash it really good in the bathtub or hose it off really good. And avoid scuffing it when possible. The sparkles are embedded, but if you do scuff up the tail enough, that's when it's going to come loose. It comes off very infrequently, but it still is just one of those things like I don't like the idea of it. So I want to point that out as a con. But for the most part, the tails don't really shed at all. Like I said, it's usually just like a piece I'll find on the carpeting, at least since I've used them a few times and washed them many times. Another con of these travel-friendly, lightweight silicone mermaid tails is that the silicone is thinner than the silicone on most silicone mermaid tails that are like the traditional dragon skin silicone. So you can see your knees, like the outline of them a little bit better. I would compare it kind of to the look of the Genesis edition silicone mermaid tails from Mernation, where you can kind of see the knees a little bit better. You can see the shape of the monofin better. That's kind of how this is. Obviously they're two different materials, but this one you can definitely see your knees a little bit from certain angles. And if you were swimming up here and the camera's angled down here, and the sun is up here, really just if the sun is behind the tail. You can see the outline of the monofin that you're using because the sun does go through the fluke of the tail to an extent. So that's something I don't like, especially from a filming perspective and possibly from a performance perspective, is that you can see the monofin from some angles because the way the light kind of plays with his tail, and you can see your knee and butt outline a little bit. However, I will say that I have taken these tails out into public and the kids still think you're a real mermaid. They really don't care. Like, they see a mermaid in the water, you're swimming in a body of water, or you're sitting on land and you have scales and you're sparkly and you're dressed up, you're a real mermaid. Nobody's questioned these tails. Also, when it comes to the realism, another downside of these tails is that the fluke is open, which is great for putting monofins in there and for like rolling up the tails and making them easier to travel with and whatnot. But the bad thing about that would be really two things. Sometimes when you're swimming underwater, especially tails that are darker like my sister's, you can see the white inner part of the tail from some angles because the tail self-seals underwater, like it basically just suctions together. But since the water flows through the tail, it does open up and move around a little bit. So sometimes you can see the white along the edge of her tail. I don't know that all tail styles will do this. That's why I'm taking it slow and only listing certain tails from Braver on my website because I want to make sure I test each one individually to make sure that they meet my standards before I share them with you guys. So you can see the white edge sometimes. Even for me as like a video creator, I don't really see that as much of a problem because it's such a small, thin line. And if someone's like focusing on that line, they're going to see it, like that specific area. But otherwise, like it's not really that obvious. And I don't think most people are going to pay attention to it. However, the one thing that will cause some issues with the open fluke is that you cannot pose with your tail up like I am in this video with my Mermation tail because the fluke will open up on you. You can slap your tail out of the water really fast and it will still stay shut, but you can't just like hang it up over your head. You also can't pose on your side, otherwise the tail will open up and you'll look like you have a garbage bag on the end of your fluke. These tails really aren't made for posing on land. I would say they're more of like in the water performance tails. However, you can sit on dry land in some poses and they will stay shut very well. I actually worked an entire event on land in this tail. I think it was like 5 hours. I think I was in this tail for 5 hours on dry land, and I didn't have any issues with it. I had a lot of kids come up to me. I was at Mackinac Crossing, so there was a lot of traffic going by, a lot of people touching the tail, feeling the tail. Nobody went to go lift the inner part, thank goodness. But if they did, that could be an issue. However, if you make sure to let kids know, like, hey, that's like my personal space, like you can touch my tail, but don't grab at it, I don't think you'll have a problem. I didn't have a problem anyways. The rest of the cons mostly have to do with this tail being a silicone mermaid tail. One of those cons would be that it's a silicone tail, but it's made in a factory, so it can't be customized as much. We use an internal pigment process, so they're not painted externally. The paint, or the pigment, I suppose, is integrated into the silicone itself, so you can't get like really sharp details. We're working to make the tails more detailed, but for now, mostly you can do like scale colors, you can do gradients, ombre effect, you can outline the scales in a different color than like the main part of the scales, but we can't do like super intricate designs, and the tails aren't going to be one of a kind per se, because somebody could theoretically have the exact same tail as you. In fact, if you want to have the exact same tail as me, you can get this exact same tail on my website, or one to match my sister's, or like you can pick your own colors. That's cool too. But the tails aren't customizable fully to an extent because we can't do like fancy stripes, fancy patterns and whatnot. There's a couple of limitations with our internal pigment process. Now we're going to wrap it up real quick. The rest of the cons: this tail is a silicone tail. It is about 15 pounds still, even though most silicone tails are about 30 pounds. This tail is still heavier than a fabric mermaid tail. And with it being a silicone mermaid tail, it does require a little bit more care than a fabric mermaid tail does. I would say less care than a silicone mermaid tail, like a traditional one, but it's going to require more care than a fabric mermaid tail. You still have to hose this off in either the tub or fresh water from your hose outside. After each swim, you do have to dry it thoroughly with towels on the inside and outside, and then fan it off with a high-powered fan and a pool noodle after each cleaning to make sure that no mold develops in the tail. With these tails, it is advised that if you aren't using them for a while, you rub them down really good with baby oil. So you would rub the inside and the outside of the tail with baby oil if you're not using it for about a month. I don't really know what the science is behind it. That's just what the manufacturer told me, is to rub it down with oil after a while. But otherwise, it's, I'd say, easier to care for than a regular silicone tail because the monofin can be removed and there's less of a chance that you're going to have mold buildup, since you can literally just open up the entire tail and let air run through the entire thing. And since it does not have external paint, you don't have to fix paint scuffs or anything, but still it is much more involved than a fabric tail. You can't just throw it in the washing machine and hang it to dry. It's not that easy. And it's going to be heavier than a fabric tail when it comes to moving it around. And with it being silicone, it does take a little bit of time to get into it. So that's kind of a con. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. I'd say this tail actually is a little more difficult to get into than a regular silicone mermaid tail. It takes a little more time. The silicone up top is a little more sticky feeling, not uncured sticky, but just different sort of texture. We're gonna move on to the pros of this tail now that we've gone through all the negative stuff, so that you can hear how awesome these things are, because I wouldn't be selling them to you if I didn't think they were awesome. To begin, the price is more affordable than regular silicone mermaid tails tend to be. Now, obviously I can't speak for all the tails I'll be selling, but this one is currently listed for $1,350 USD, whereas silicone mermaid tails that you get custom at their lowest level tend to run around $3,000 at this time. Obviously that'll depend on the company you're going with, but these tails are significantly cheaper. The material is different and you don't have that personalized touch of somebody hand making your tail. So that is a big factor in that. But they are cheaper, which is a big plus for someone who is looking to get a silicone mermaid tail, but they don't really have the budget for dropping a couple $1,000s on a tail at the time. In addition to being more affordable, these silicone mermaid tails are also travel friendly. Hence the name mermaidtraveltails.com, because these tails are focused on ease of travel, because I like to go places, whether that is on a plane or hauling my tail through the woods to get to a really cool shooting location. It's really easy when you can travel with the tail, and really difficult when you have a 45-pound beast that is fighting you the entire way. My 45-pound silicone mermaid tail that I got this year is beautiful. It's a dragon skin silicone tail, but it's really hard to travel with, and it really just makes wanting to wear that tail a little bit more difficult. But I love the tail, so I'm not talking down on it. But when it comes to wanting to travel, if you are a traveling mermaid, you like to go places, whether that's going off the beaten path to go find a cool shooting location, or whether that's getting on a plane, these tails are much more ideal than standard traditional silicone mermaid tails, because you can just roll them up into a little ball, put them in your carry-on luggage, and haul them around. You can put them on a plane in the overhead storage bin. That way you don't have to risk losing your silicone mermaid tail that you paid thousands of dollars for when it's going through the checked luggage, because things get lost there, and I've heard some horror stories. And for my professional mermaids out there, these tails are actually really nice because they have raised scales. So they have 3D scales, so if you touch the scales, they feel like fish scales, which is really nice if you're going to work an event. Say you want to be a traveling mermaid who travels around the world and meets people all over. This tail's literally got your name written all over it, because not only do you have the realistic look of a silicone mermaid tail, you also have the realistic feel of a silicone mermaid tail. If someone wants to touch your tail, if you're working a kid's party or something, they can actually feel the scales. So these tails are great for professional mermaids because they do have the same realism when it comes to touch as standard silicone mermaid tails. They also are really kid-friendly because they are super sparkly, if you choose to get sparkles embedded into your mermaid travel tail. And you really don't need any extra props for trying to get the kids that are a little skeptical to come over to you, because you can literally just take one of your fins and wave it around the sunlight and show them how sparkly it is, and then they want to come feel it. Like, hey, you know, like, feel this. Especially the little tendril pieces that are on the water fairy design that I have currently listed on the website. Those are really, really floppy, and I use them to like lure kids in for photos when their parents are like begging for them to get in the picture, but they didn't want to get next to the mermaid because they were like hesitant. It worked great. So super sparkly. I can't even begin to describe how sparkly they are. This video of me swimming in a pool kind of captures what it looks like in real life in low lighting situations, but when it comes to sunny days, the camera cannot capture how sparkly these are, and it makes me so mad, but they look amazing. I've actually shot some product photos in the water of my sister's tail, and I walked it down to the beach and everything to get these pictures. And I was so mad when I looked at my footage that it didn't look as sparkly and perfect as it did in real life. Like, these things are literally glowing gems, and you have to see it to believe it, because my videos can't show it to you. So you're just gonna have to buy a tail and see for yourself. In addition to the tails being super sparkly and having raised scales, I think you'll be happy to know that it's raining. Darn. You'll be happy to know that these tails are not painted. As mentioned before, they have pigment integrated into the silicone themselves, so you don't have any paint scrapes to fix, and I honestly think that is a major plus, because I hate fixing paint scrapes. I work in natural bodies of water, so I'm always scraping my tails on zebra mussels, on rocks, on abrasive sand, on other abrasive surfaces like cement or pavement, wherever I happen to be. And it's a pain to fix that because you have to color match. You have to go in a ventilated area, potentially when it's raining or snowing or really cold. You have to find an area to go fix your tail and also not stuck in the fumes. So luckily, these tails, you don't have to deal with that at all. If you scrape your tail, you won't even know it, because underneath the area you scraped is the same exact color. So you won't even know. And like I said earlier, I have tried to actively beat these up a little bit. It's really hard. I have definitely slammed them against zebra mussels, and I have yet to find a scratch on any of them that I've used. So they're pretty durable. I will say that. They're pretty durable. And the internal integration of the pigment is honestly a plus, because I hate fixing paint scrapes, because my other tails, especially that black one, loves to peel like crazy. And I need to wrap this video up because it's going on way too long. But another really good thing for my mermaids out there that might be a little insecure about their midsection, like I am, these tails have a very nice thin waistband, so it is more flattering than traditional silicone mermaid tails. We should all obviously love our bodies that we're in, and you know what, like, we are not made of plastic. We are meant to fold and bend and bubble and whatever. But I tend to get really bad mermaid muffin tops, as some people call them, with my other silicone tails, because, you know, the silicone's a little bit thicker and it squeezes you, so it kind of makes like your skin like puff up and kind of come over the edge of the tail. And having had some body issues in the past and a lot of like discomfort with my body, it's always something I'm really insecure about. I've been a lot better with it like in the past couple of years, like it's not that big of a deal anymore. But I do like these tails have a very thin, flattering waistband, and they don't like squeeze the heck out of you and make you like erupt over the silicone, which is really nice. I really like that. And also, just like for comfort, it just feels more comfortable because it's more of like a hug instead of like a squeeze. I guess regular silicone tails don't really like squeeze you too much. This is just thinner, so it doesn't feel quite as like bulky and like restrictive, I guess. But it looks very nice in my opinion. And then to wrap this up quickly, because I have a feeling the rain is only going to get worse because it's fall, this tail has an open fluke. Obviously, we talked about that earlier, how it can be something that is negative when it comes to posing. But as far as travel goes, it's really a positive thing, because it means that you can take the monofin out, roll up the tail, put it where you need to put it, and then unroll the tail, put the monofin in, and then swim in that. As far as monofin goes, I like to wear the mahina. That's what I'm sitting on right now to keep my white pants from getting grass stains. But you can use all sorts of different monofins as long as they give you enough propulsion and as long as they fit within the fluke area. If you do have a question, just send me a message and I will do my best to answer it. There was a question someone asked about one of the fantasy fins from Mer Taylor, and I believe it was the Fantasy Fin 3 they were asking about. Me and the factory manager did some research, and it does look as though the Fantasy Fin 3 monofin will fit inside these tails nicely. If there's another monofin you'd like us to check out for you, just let me know and I'll do my best to figure out whether or not they will fit in this fluke and any other flukes that we will have on the website. As there are some coming, I just have to get them and test them. But the open fluke is really positive for picking your own monofin, and also because of like travel, and then when it comes to trying to dry your tail, it's so much easier to dry your mermaid tail when the fluke isn't enclosed, because like you can get all those hard to reach places and know that no mold is going to build up, which I really like. And now that we're at the end of the video, we're just going to do a quick, is this tail for you? And these are just some ending thoughts to think about. If you are skeptical of food grade silicone and you want a really customized silicone mermaid tail that is handmade and has all the bells and whistles, then this is probably not a silicone mermaid tail you want to get. If you want a silicone mermaid tail that is the most realistic in the world, this is probably not the silicone mermaid tail you want to get. If you are an inexperienced swimmer in a monofin, or an inexperienced swimmer in general, a child, or someone who is not currently at a stable weight, this is not this type of mermaid tail you want to get. But if you are somebody who wants a silicone mermaid tail that is more affordable, lighter weight, easier to care for, but still beautiful and realistic to the touch, and realistic in appearance, and super shiny, and super sparkly, and easy to travel with and take with you wherever you want to go, then this might be a good option for you. I hope you found this video helpful. I know it was really long, and I apologize for that, but I want to make sure I was really thorough and answered as many questions as I could about these tails, because this has been a really highly requested video. It's taken me a while to get this out. I'm very sorry about that. I will have some more videos related to these tails in the near future, and hopefully I'll be able to show you some more of the tails that I have purchased to test out for you guys so that you can get them if you'd like to in the future. But for now, here's this video. If you have any other questions about these tails that I didn't cover in this video and you would like those questions answered, please let me know in the comments and I will do my best to help you. Otherwise, if you'd like to buy one of these tails, please visit mermaidtraveltails.com and you can buy one there.